There is a pattern that I'm noticing that I'm going to comment on amongst certain members of the DR. The DR. That would be the dissident right. What used to be called the alt-right, but we don't say alt-right anymore, I guess. Um, and there's some who are writing articles and uh, doing podcasts and saying things to the effect of, well, you know what, we've gone too far. There's there are people in our ranks that need to be purged. We've gone too far. It's fine to be open to conspiracies and all that, but we've got all these kinds of things that people are saying are, and they're just crazy. And we need to, restore some sanity to the right. To um, so this is an effort to police. This is an effort to gatekeep, um, and it's I don't know, it it's hitting me in a way that makes me suspicious. I'm not liking it. I'm not liking it now. I mean, it's possible that these people are just, all on their own coming to these kinds of conclusions. That's no result of, it's not the result of any coordinated thing, um, any kind of, contrived way of attempting to cast shade. Um, this is all being noticed post Trump election. I don't remember. I kind of had my ear to the wall, more or less. I don't remember hearing people say things like this before the election. I mean, maybe there were there were some instances of people with discontent who that is brewing uh, on the right, but I don't know enough to know. I don't follow these people enough to know whether or not they were. They're just saying what they were saying last year before November. Maybe they were. Maybe these people were already saying, "Okay, we've had enough." Maybe these are like this is another extension or outgrowth of the ones who broke ranks because they thought they just decided that make America great again and make America healthy again and question the shots and question the 2020 uh, atrocities and question everything, question the experts. They maybe they were already saying, okay, we've gone a little too far. We need to circle back. We need to circle back and say this is we that we do believe in the consensus. We do we're not totally against everything that's been formed by the contrived consensus that emerged from neoliberal world. Um, and I've been on here. I've talked about things. I've talked about my doubts concerning Tartarian theory, especially with regard to the Chicago World's Fair of 1893, and I've talked about how it's it's fascinating to see every comment left by some mainstream or moderate source just gets comment bombed by people who don't buy into any of that, and they win the comment wars by far. Uh, you know, and I've questioned uh, how flat Earth can, and Tartaria and things like the myth, like the idea that the Titanic was sabotaged so that the Federal Reserve could be passed, and other things like that. I haven't really, or that the Israelis were responsible for killing JFK. I haven't really questioned any of these things. On the substance of the arguments, except the World's Fair thing. I just think there's there's just too much historical documentation of that event to say, oh well, all of that was fabricated. Everything that they wrote in the newspaper, in newspapers, and all the everything, all of the apparent news about who was heading this effort to build these structures that became the 1893 World's Fair, et cetera, and so on. And the you know the alliances and the squabbles that formed between the people who were trying to build those to construct the 1893 World's Fair, and those who were opposed to certain things about it. Those who wanted it to be in New York instead of in Chicago. Those who wanted, just there's just so much secondary material, and I find it really difficult to believe that this was all just fabricated. This just all of this intense and extremely detailed, richly detailed, with photographs and with you know, I mean, you can go back in the archives and find this stuff, and to tell me, well, no, that stuff was built. Those buildings were built ages ago, and they just had a bunch of people make up a bunch of stuff and put it down and make it look like it was old newspapers, and that to me strains credulity. Um, Now, it was pointed out to me by someone that that's not all of Tartarian thinking, and I acknowledge that. That's fine. You can think that the World's Fair was happened as it was reported to have happened, but still believe other things about Tartarian theory. It's just more about the novelty of these theories having been having materialized just seemingly out of the blue. Flat Earth especially, that suddenly it was acceptable, not only acceptable but based to believe something that until that point nobody would have taken you seriously if you said that you thought the world was flat. Again, that's not an argument against flat Earth theory, and for all I know, maybe the world is flat. I tend not to think that it is, but that's just what I'm stipulating more than me. I'm not really interested in engaging in a debate with anybody about this. I'm not the person to debate. I'm not an astrophysicist uh, or whatever. That's not my field. But anyway, so I have said that from my own point of view, I f- I see the proliferation of, let's call them, conspiracy theories, or different, just people challenging the official story of things. I've seen things proliferate uh, and then maybe get a little out of hand from my perspective. Uh, but I'm not. I don't think I don't see the harm in any of that. Uh, I don't see how, if someone is uh, flat Earth. If someone believes in flat Earth and believes in Tartarian theory and thinks that the Titanic was sabotaged, and I don't know, whatever else. And it was the Israelis that killed JFK, and a lot of the other stuff. I don't, but that doesn't really, and of course the stuff about how many how many perished in Eastern Europe in the early 40s. That's of course been around for a long time. Those kinds of questions, people with those kinds of questions or takes on that particular issue. I don't see the harm in these notions being out there. I don't see how that's hurting anything or bothering anybody. I don't see how that's hurting the movements, if you want to call it that, the movement's credibility, because there it won't. People will think that you're a lunatic if you think various things. People will think you're a lunatic if you think that if you don't believe the official story of 9/11. And I think that's become for me a pretty mainstream idea, and for a lot of people that's pretty damn mainstream. That's not just that's not an out there thing anymore. But whatever you think about that event, it doesn't. It's not really so important. The important thing is where you're pushing the culture towards, what you want to see manifested in the culture, and what you are striving to manifest in the culture through your own efforts. And I think the questioning of things is a positive thing. But for some reason, it's like these nattering nabobs of negativism that I've read a few of. One of them is Richard Hanaya, who essentially was saying, it's better to trust the mainstream media gatekeepers, because they're not off saying all this crazy stuff about how we never landed on the moon. They're not off saying all this crazy stuff about, chemtrails, and they're not off saying all this crazy stuff about, I don't know, take your pick of objections to the official story. So essentially, it's like sort of kissing up to those with the mainstream media types, and swearing a kind of fealty to them. It seems and to their notions of what is credible and what isn't. It seems to be what animates these people, and there's been more and more of that. And for some reason, the tariff stuff really bothers them. I get if you have a principled objection to tariffs, then I get that, and that doesn't make me think ill of you. But this notion of the tariff and now on top of all that, the tariffs, like what first they're believing all these crazy things, and then on top of all that, it's the tariffs. So and now I'm just ready to throw in the towel on all of this dissident right stuff and become a moderate. And this is what some people are out there are saying. Like, it seems like it wasn't really a problem for a lot of these people until the election, and now that RFK Jr. is has an actual post in the government, which is a day I never thought that would come. I never thought we'd see that. You know, in 2020 and 2021, when he was being treated like a thought criminal and was being kicked off social media everywhere, just like a bunch of other people were at that time, including yours truly, who got banned by YouTube during that time. You know, uh, you know, now that things like that have happened, now that in a lot of ways the things that it was hard to imagine happening have happened. Um, Now it's just too much for some people, and they want to just blow the whistle on all of the crazies out there, and they want to circle back to an earlier vision of sanity. And it's like part of this is all the woke right stuff with James Lindsay. Um, but again, I've clashed recently with people who have written things saying written remarkably similar pieces, which were saying remarkably similar things about the dissident right and about how you know it used to be good, it used to be cool, but now it's just so over. Like, uh, because there are people who just doubt everything. There's just too much doubting of official stories going on, and we need to have more. We need to believe more in the neoliberal consensus that reigned supreme. In the in the 90s. Uh, back when the whole idea that you know that rich and powerful people are victimizing children, that was so crazy, out there, fringe. David Icke was saying that stuff, but nobody else was. I wasn't. I wouldn't have believed it. You know, I wouldn't have thought things like that were going on. And from what I remember, I don't think there were many others who believed that stuff was real. Like the Franklin scandal happened in the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, but it didn't get much press. Uh, it took a while for people to start to notice those kinds of things. Um, so was it more pleasant in some ways? Yeah, absolutely. It was more pleasant when your perception of the world wasn't that people in power are completely evil and total liars and don't care if you live or die, or either that or actively want you to be harmed. Yeah, of course it was better. It was nicer. It was more pleasant to think that they were just sort of wrong, uh, even if they're egregiously wrong on certain things like abortion. I mean, I'm saying from my own perspective, from my own point of view, I remember thinking that way about abortion stuff, because to me it's always been, or for a long time, it's always been very clear the heinous moral disgustingness uh, of that procedure. Um, but even back then, it was sort of that was as far as it went. It wasn't like it is now. The kind of ideas and thoughts and the kind of things that people more commonly believe. Uh, on the right, it's all on the right now, pretty much. And like there are some people some dissidents from the neoliberal left, and maybe some people who think of themselves as unreconstructed leftists from the hippie era, like the type of people who always practice homeopathic medicine and always disbelieved in the medical establishment. Now those people are filed as right wing. You you know, which is crazy. It's so crazy that you know uh, the, those kinds of people who nobody would have called right wing in the '90s or in the '80s when they existed, um, when they were uh, expressing anti-vax uh, notions and theories and embraced again homeopathic care, uh, allopathic care, and that kind of stuff. Those weren't seen as like far right buzzwords, but now they are, and it's just crazy. Strange bedfellows. But in any case, I just think there's something about these pieces that I've read lately. Uh, I don't know as much about Richard Hanaya. I didn't even know really who he was, um, and I don't really keep up that much. I don't know people necessarily unless they come to my attention. But I read something by Endeavor on Substack, and he also published his piece at Countercurrents. And of course, at Countercurrents, they're all like pro EU and on the same side as Macron and Keir Starmer and all the other despicable people, on the Ukraine stuff, which is again. So it's like there it's if it's not there are various reasons why people are expressing this, you know trying to police or gatekeep the conspiracy theories of those who are a part of the dissident right. And I just don't. There's something to me that registers as possibly coordinated about these pieces that I've read. Um, uh, so I don't know what's going on exactly, but and probably never will, and I probably never will know what's going on with anything exactly. And I'm honest enough to admit that. But these things, um, the the patterns the patterns are being noted. So if you're somebody who just thinks the dissident right has gone too far, and there's just too many people espousing all these crazy ideas, and I mean, hell, there are people saying that like it's not like this is all that new. There are people like Richard Spencer and others who were saying, "Hey, we need to do this is a real medical emergency. We need to obey the authorities and do exactly what they say." Back in 2020, which for me that forfeited that was where Richard turned in his dissident card, where Richard showed his true colors, as far as I was concerned. Um, but yeah, so if you're one of these people, then please let me know, and maybe we could have a little exchange. I don't know. Thanks for watching.